So the first of the series of events was to sell the one business here in town, and then my business partner was going to buy me out in the communications business. So on that Friday, when my husband left, I closed on the sale of the spa in town, and couldn't wait to celebrate. Okay, one thing down, a little closer to freedom, a little closer to taking a break, because I was exhausted. And the unfortunate part was on Sunday, my husband didn't return. He had a fatal accident and didn't make it back home. So life goes into a whirlwind. Again, thank you, God, at least I had the one business sold and one thing settled, and now what do I do? So it sparked in me, first of all, when you're in that whirl, to be thankful for what I have. Oh my goodness, thank God I have someone to help with my children. Thank God I have family. Thank God I have, support. And because I was, in this community here, which I had built friends and my children's friends, and there was a ton of support. And even from that moment, I thought, oh my goodness, how do people do it that are alone, or they don't have this level of support? Or I don't know what made me think of it, but I started even from then. I guess it was in my gratefulness, and someone had said to me, "You're so strong. You're one of the strongest women I know. You could do this." And I thought, really, strong? Okay, strong, yes. But at that point, when your world is just turned upside down and you lose, everything that your foundation was based on, how you were going to spend the rest of your life, the father of your children, and everything. Maybe I still was strong, but I was extremely vulnerable. I was extremely sad. I was extremely depressed. And I kept saying to myself, okay, I'm going to get better. I'm going to get better. But how do you do this? How do you do this? So it was one of these thoughts that I guess was a seed in my mind then. And then I went through the motions of just trying to put the pieces of my life back together. And again, very grateful for the support. At that point, a lot of things that I used to do, I couldn't do anymore. I was no longer a member of the Women's Club because I had no time to do that. I had to get my life together. I had 2 children to care for. I had to change a lot of things. I stepped back from work a little bit. Again, being very grateful that I had the opportunity to do that. It was my business, and I was able to do that. And so, I don't want to make this about a sad story, because loss is something that affects all of us. But I think until you've really gone through it, you don't know the impact that it has on you. And in a couple of minutes, I'm going to share just a little bit of statistics to make people understand. But more importantly, during this time, I pulled a lot of my resources, which I had gathered because in between 2 businesses and 2 babies and life and everything else, my hobbies were basically in spiritual studies. I've always had an interest in world religions. Always felt very connected to God and angels and spirit, whichever you'd like to call it. So I had done a lot of studies and was actually writing a manuscript to possibly have a book, and I wanted to share all of those stories with everyone. So I've studied with different healers, gurus, which are spiritual masters, spiritual teachers. In the Hindu faith, the Buddhist faith. I was born and raised Catholic, so that's where I got my base in Christianity, and this was always the source of my being, and I wanted to share that with everyone. Well, now I had the opportunity to really pull on those resources to say, God help me, because I'm not doing too good here. I don't feel good. I'm not happy. I don't know if I'll be happy again. I don't know the impact on my children. You're filled with worries and fears and everything. And then what I found to be the most comforting, I didn't want to go to any bereavement groups. because I just didn't want to be with other people that were sad. I'm like, I'm sad enough. I can't be with more people that are sad. I can't do this. I can't. So what do I do? Then I found myself, even for me, which is crazy to think because I'm out there so much between work and socializing, I really started to isolate a bit. And although some of that is important, I think it's one of the worst things that someone can do when they're experiencing a tragedy or a loss, because it becomes very dangerous. You know, you fall prey to depression. We need each other. We need the energy. We need the hugs. We need the human contact. And more than anything else, we need someone that understands us, understands the process we're going through. It normalizes us because you don't feel yourself, because no one's familiar with what it feels like to go through a loss until you do. My prayers were answered, as they always were, and I guess it was about 6 months after my husband had passed away. I was invited to join a group of women that were coming together. It was Becky Aikman was the author of the book Saturday Night Widows. How it started was she did not want to be involved in the bereavement groups because she had a very bad experience, and she said, we have to do this better. And so she interviewed several women. She picked 5 of them, and for 3 years we formed this friendship. We met once a month for the first year. We went out together. We had we did all different community events together, but it was in this group of ladies that I thought, wow, this is what you need. You need friends who understand what you've gone through, and it became, I think, the staple of my healing process during those first 2 years, and they all reported the same thing. 3 years later, the book came out, published, Saturday Night Widows, the story of 6 friends recreating their lives, and that was born. And it was fabulous, and the response from everyone saying, oh my gosh, the book helped so much, and how do you make these groups, and how do you do this, and how do you do that? And I was able to meet a lot of people and speak with a lot of people, and I thought, okay, this is what I need to do next. I want to create a company that will not only help widows, but anyone experiencing loss, because there's a common denominator when you experience loss, whether it be loss of a spouse, loss of a child, loss of your home or your job, tragedy. And then I had several friends of mine who were divorced say, well, this is a huge loss too, and we never, we had to, how did they say, it's almost the same, isn't it? And I thought, give me a minute to think about that. And what is the same is, through a divorce, you lose your identity. You were part of this family, and now you're not. You feel isolated, you feel depressed, so there's so many similar aspects there that I thought, yes, okay. So what I decided to do was, with all of this information, and I thought, okay, we're going to make loss in general be the theme of this new business, this new creation, and indeed